Good evening. I'll start with a quotation from Nagarjuna, where he says, Kunzop nyomo le jiji, le ne semle chungwai, semne paja thagisa, paja thava devate, deve semne shivani, sem shivene mong menjur, mamong bene tinyiri wa tharvathops. So in this verses, Nagarjuna says that the conventional afflictive emotions are cultivated by actions. Actions arose from the mind. Mind is accumulated by imprints. And to be separated from those imprints is peace. A mind in peace will always be calm. And when your mind is peaceful and calm, you will not be confused. When you are not confused, then you are able to see the truth, the suchness. And when you see the truth, the suchness, you get liberated. A beautiful point. So therefore he says that the conventional afflictive emotions are cultivated by action. Now when we talk about action, there are 2 or 3 types of actions. But here it is primarily talking about the mental action. Okay. So, sorry, the conventional emotions are cultivated by action, yeah. And the action, physical and mental actions, physical and verbal actions, probably here more. Those physical and verbal actions are also, they arise from the mind. Now the state of mind you have, positive or negative, is again dependent upon what kind of imprint you have. That means in what area your mind is more habituated. There are people who are very fond of harming others, always violent, aggressive. You see, there are so many different people with different temperaments. Some are always calm and peaceful. Not necessarily that somebody has studied religion or not, but there are, people who are naturally very calm, and there are people who are naturally very violent. This is result of their past habituation. Imprint means habituation. Habituation. When you continuously do something repeatedly, then you form a habit. And we call that die-hard habit. Then gradually it becomes a die-hard habit, a habit that's difficult to get rid of. So that's why when we talk about meditation also, it's primarily, as I mentioned earlier, getting habituated with positive emotions, getting habituated with virtue. Because with the negative emotions, we are very habituated. It comes like that. Anger, it comes like that. Jealous, it comes like that. Hatred, it comes like that. But with the positive emotions, it's not that easy. Clearly showing that direction, that side, you are not so habituated. So therefore, spiritual practice or meditation means basically getting habituated with a positive, constructive way of life. You need to repeatedly do it, and there's nothing that will not become easy. If you get habituated, there's nothing that will not become easy. And Shantideva gives the example of somebody, say your enemy, who you used to, get terrified just by his presence. But if due to change the situation, if that horrible, fearful enemy happens to be your neighbor, so for the first few days you are really horrified what to do, now that enemy has become my neighbor. But then, you cannot avoid that person repeatedly. You will meet here and there, still you don't want to greet each other, you try to avoid as much as possible. But then it happens all the time. Then sometimes he or you will do something like, no real greeting, but something like, Then gradually, he also shows that gesture, you also show that gesture. Gradually you might say, morning. Then probably you will exchange 1 or 2 words or sentences. Then you might gradually sit over a cup of tea. And through that way, gradually, you become such a close friend that now you can't remain without that person. You got so close, you miss that person. The same small enemy can become your best friend because of habituation, you see. So it's like that. So we need to form that habit. So to form that strong habit, we need to repeatedly think, repeatedly practice. It will not come like that. This is also very important. If you recall this verse from Buddha himself, where he says, do not do anything that is negative, do everything that is positive, and discipline your mind. This is my teaching. Now ordinarily we say, oh, if the purpose of Buddhist teaching is to become a good person, then why do we need to study all these complex philosophical texts? Why don't just we become a good person like that, you see? And that's not possible. Therefore the Buddha said, don't do anything that's bad, do everything that's good. And to do that, you have to completely transform your mind. Train your mind. So training the mind takes time, because training the mind means acknowledging what is positive, acknowledging what is destructive, negative, making a clear differentiation between these two sides, and then getting habituated with the positive things. Because when you try to do something positive, sometimes unfortunately there are not many people who is appreciating what you are doing. Like for example, if you say, okay, I went to Dharamsala, listen to Buddhist teaching, I don't know how many people back in your home will support you. At the most they'll say, oh good. Others might say, oh, this just wasted time, Instead they should have worked and earned some money. That's naturally the tendency of the people, you see. And it's understandable because they don't have the insight. Right? So therefore, when it comes to doing good, and one of the Buddhist teaching also says, when it comes to doing good, you are like a tired donkey pulled uphill. Tired, heavily loaded, tired donkey pulled uphill. You take just one step, you are being pulled, and then you will look back, you don't want to proceed. So when it comes to doing positive practices, it is like that. When it comes to doing something negative, destructive, it comes automatically like a big boulder thrown down steep slope of a mountain. It'll just go with big force. And this is because of habituation, you see. So therefore we need to have some courage, especially in the beginning, when you're not at all used with these things. At least in the beginning, make some effort, develop some understanding. Then that might give you a sense, why should I do this? You see. So therefore this kind of gathering, discussion, listening to the teaching, from that perspective becomes important. Okay? So action is arise from the mind. Mind is the creator. In Buddhism we don't believe a creator God. If there is a creator, then the creator is your mind. The world is in Madhyamika Avtara. It is the mind that creates the world of sentient beings and the environment in which the sentient beings live. It's the mind. You see? Just like the construction of this hall, somebody planned with the mind, and then this hall is created. So similarly, the sufferings and happiness, everything is basically creation of doing of our own mind. Okay? So the present state of your mind is, despite your making so much attempt, it is, as I said, not easy, because you are what you are, in what you are habituated. So that means your mind basically is a result of collection of imprints, predispositions, habits. So therefore, if purifying one's mind means going to the root cause of the mental disturbance, dealing with the imprints In Buddhism we say first they're just like fighting an enemy. Okay? There are several stages. Offensive, defensive, so many things. So first defensive, make sure that you are not vulnerable to the enemy's attack. And then it's also possible you just go out, not only just defend yourself, but take the tactic of the offensive practice. Just go to the battle and fight. So similarly, when we deal with the negative emotions, we need to first of all try to reduce the grosser, the manifest level of negative emotions. Then gradually go to the seed. Then gradually go to the imprint. Seed is like the onion. If you chop onion in a, what do you call it? Mortar, pestle. Then the onion is like seed. So long as that onion seed is there, the smell will be there. Onion smell will be there. Now sometimes you remove the physical onion, but still there is a lingering smell. So that imprint is like that. And it is said that even in the case of arhats, who had completely destroyed negative emotions, there are cases of some of the arhats who would meaninglessly jump here, there, acting like a monkey, because of past life's habit. That can be there, you see. So habit. So therefore, you need to, basically he's saying is, if you need to remove the negative emotions from the very root, then there will be real well-being. When there is complete physical and mental well-being, then your mind will be at peace. When your mind is completely at peace, then you will not be confused. We are normally confused, when we want to study something, the mind is not working, you feel sleepy or whatever, whatever you want to reflect, it's not coming, because your mind is polluted. Pollution by afflictive emotions, pollution by the environment, pollution by associating with the wrong friends, So that's why some of the meditators, they say, even in Dharamsala, the meditators who meditate high up in the mountain, when they come down to Meghalorganj, their mind becomes unclear. So that's the difference, because these people are used with this high, altitude and clean environment, so their mind is normally very clear. But when they come down, even to Meghalorganj, imagine if you go to Delhi, other places. Now people like me who go to Delhi, I don't feel much pollution because my pollution is very deep. But some of these real practitioners, meditators, they can feel it, you see. So it's really like that, external pollution, internal pollution, like that. So removing their very seed is very, very important. Then your mind will not be confused. When your mind is not confused, then you get liberated. Then you will be able to see what needs to be adopted and what needs to be discarded. Right? Clear? So today being the last day, I need to do a little bit of galloping. Tadi diksain serba. So we were discussing a little bit about, I need to do this a little bit more first. So there are so many interesting texts here. Like for example, what is the benefit of doing this meditation on the mindfulness on the body? I did explain a little bit earlier, but still if I, quote this sutra, here it says, by realizing that your body is impermanent, that it will not stay long, that it will die, it will crumble, then with that understanding, you will not engage in wrong livelihood. There's the benefit. And I normally give an example, like for example, if there are 3 criminals who are to be killed tomorrow, so let us imagine that they are standing right in front of us, 3 criminals, and they will be killed tomorrow, or let us say they will be killed tonight at 10 p.m. 3 criminals. Now it is absolutely sure that they will be killed at 10 p.m. How they should behave towards each other within this remaining period of their life. They have around 5 hours or so. So how should they behave? Exploit each other? What do you think? Engage in corruption? What do you think? Doesn't make any sense. Exploit each other? Impossible. Cheat each other, deceive each other, bully each other, harm each other. If they engage in such activities, those of us who are witnessing these 3 people, some of us, especially some of us with a tender heart, we might cry. How come these people, they have only 5 hours to live and still they are so mean to each other? Clear? I read this once in a mind training text. Clear? Doesn't make sense, right? Violence, cheating doesn't make sense, right? Exactly like these 3 criminals. We are exactly like these 3 criminals. Because just like they will be killed at 10 p.m., whether you use the word being killed or not, but will die after a certain period. In this particular case of gathering, even if I give you a big discount, at the most we will live 60 average, at the most, after giving some discount. So after 60, we're all gone. So during this remaining 50 years of our life, is it sensible to engage in corruption, exploitation, harming each other? And that's why great thinkers like Shantideva, they say you don't have to kill people, they will die. You don't have to harm people because they're already suffering. You see? And those of us who don't have that insight, don't have that understanding, keep on creating suffering on other people as if they are shortage of suffering. Keep on harming each other. So that's why right in the beginning, on the first day, I said much of the suffering and problems that we are encountering today is basically our own creation. So therefore, this is called unnecessary suffering. Dugyung. I don't know how to say it in English. In Tibetan, we have a very good word for that. Dugyung. That means it's something that you have invited. You see, your personal loss, your own doing. So you deserve it, almost something like that. You deserve it. You see. It's your own doing, you see. Really. So therefore, it makes perfect sense that if you develop more insight of this, the way things are, and live accordingly, people can be transformed, society can be transformed, world can be transformed. And that's the only way. Not just bullying each other, showing power, misusing power, which is happening so much, right? So therefore he says, when you realize that your body is impermanent, realize that you are not going to live long. I mean, there are cases of real people, you know. I heard a story of a very elderly Indian. Somebody tried to bribe that very elderly Indian. And then he said, you know how old I am. He was very upset with this bribing. He said, you know how old I am. I'm such and such age. And do you still think I will be hankering after money? I mean, the amazing answer, you see. And I recently bought a book which contains kind of interviews of the richest people in India. So what was their experience in life with the money? You know, they were all saying that it's really not the money. it's friendship, relationship, things like that. So that's our basic experience, you see. But sometimes because we go after appearance, we don't have time to wait for the reality. And appearances are deceptive. Appearances are deceptive. And on a bigger level, and this topic has been touched not only in Buddhist philosophy, but if you look at this teaching or talks by Plato on appearance and reality. If you read his very interesting philosophical idea, The Cave. Have you read that one? The Cave, which is really like talking about the Buddhist conventional truth, the ultimate truth. It is saying if you put a bunch of people in the cave which is completely dark, and very often you get some light from the door entrance, and you see some shadow people only, then you will think this shadow is the real human being. That's all they know. You see? But gradually, if you get an opportunity to escape from that imprisonment in the cave and see the light, the fire, first of all, you will not be able to see it. So seeing the truth is not easy. That's what he's saying. You will not be able to tolerate it. So you have to get habituated with that, and then gradually you will be able to enjoy, what you are able to see through the light of the sun. Oh, different colors, different people, different shape. You're able to gradually see it. So the conventional truth, interestingly, we call it Kunzup Demba, and he almost like Kunzup Demba, conventional truth we call it. Conventional truth sometimes has been translated as concealing truth, because it conceals your vision of seeing the truth. And Plato uses the word veiled perception, Dibba. So this has been explored. Now scientifically they are saying that of course I'm right, I can see your face is like that. But the face that I'm seeing, I'm able to see your face because of the light that travels. And it takes time for the light from your face to my eye. It takes time. So when I see your face, already some time has passed. So it's like different, almost like seeing the past face, you see. So there are a lot of important points to reflect about what is the real truth. Anyway, so if the closer you're able to go to, that's why we use the word close setting of mindfulness. On a closer scrutiny, you will be able to come closer to the reality. And therefore, when you see this mortality, impermanence of human life, then you will not engage in wrong livelihood. In Buddhist text, we talk about the 5 kinds of wrong livelihood: flattery, hypocrisy, things like that. So you will not engage in wrong livelihood, and instead you will try to take the meaning out of your precious human life. And you will be able to extract 3 essences. The 3 essences are essence of the body. Essence means meaning. You will make best use of the meaning of your life, your body. You will be able to make best use of the meaning of your wealth, real purpose of your wealth, and the real purpose of your being alive. You will make the best use of these 3 things that you have: your body, your life, and your wealth. So as I said earlier, the choice is yours. Now, for example, he says, by thinking that my body is impermanent, you will be able to submit yourself as if you're a servant or a slave to everybody. Because this impermanent body, not ugly body, filthy body, there's not much essence. And you can get that purpose by helping others, serving others as if you are their servant. So that's why, although on the one hand we pray to the bodhisattvas, they are great beings, but honestly speaking, bodhisattvas are like servants of people. You see, they're servants of people, and their wish is always, when I can get an opportunity to serve and help others. Right? That's the thing. Because the more you loosen this grasp to your body, life, and so forth, healthier you will be. The more you grasp onto it, the more it will be suffocating. The more you will become stressed, the more you will become tense. Oh, what will happen to me? What will happen to me? What will I eat? All the time. Right? So there's the purpose. And then by thinking the body is impermanent, you will stop deceiving others, engaging in hypocrisy. By thinking that your body is impermanent, you will not engage in wrongdoings or sinful activities, even at the cost of your life. So there are so many things, we can't read all of this, okay? And then I briefly mentioned earlier that even if you are enjoying a very pleasant feeling, but you will not get puffed up with it. Normally when we are successful, we have the needed facilities, we get puffed up. But if you have this understanding, you will appreciate it, but you will not get arrogant, you will not get puffed up. And similarly, the text says, when you see somebody enjoying, instead of getting jealous, you will feel, in many cases, you will feel sorry for that person. Develop more compassion to that person because of the understanding that this person, because he or she has a little bit of material facilities at his or her disposal, so therefore they are completely lost into it. They are completely grasping onto these material facilities. They are completely confused. So that they will get entrapped in the cycle of existence. You see? And therefore Shantideva, as mentioned in his text, that suffering is something that we don't want. But it has also many qualities. Many qualities. There he says, furthermore, he mentions a lot of qualities of suffering, and then furthermore he says, because when you have suffering, your mind becomes a little bit low. You get saddened. You get saddened. And when you get saddened, you become a little bit low. There will be no room for pride and arrogance. Right? And you will also be able to know that I'm suffering because of certain wrongdoings, certain negative actions. Therefore, I should stop engaging in negative activities in the future. Normally people realize after they have made a mistake, you see. And when they start suffering, then they realize, oh, I should not have done it. I promise that I'll never do this again. You see? And they will, in the future, rejoice more in doing positive activities, because they are able to now see the positive benefits of positive activities. And they develop more compassion to other people who are really suffering, because you have suffered. Like, for example, if I'm somebody who has had this experience of migraine headache, the next time I see somebody suffering from migraine headache, I'll be able to understand and show more concern and compassion to that person, because you know what is migraine headache. If you don't have that experience, you'll not be able to develop that feeling for others. So sometimes I use, instead of using the word suffering, I use the word challenge. If you run away from challenge, you will never get an opportunity to develop new experience, even in ordinary life. Challenges are like wrestlers, like two people when they are wrestling. When there are two people to wrestle with, by wrestling, your arms become stronger, your muscles develop because of the other presence of the other wrestler. So similarly, when you get difficulties and challenges and problems to wrestle with, that gives you an opportunity to get new insight. That's why in the world also, ordinarily, those people who have seen a lot of ups and downs in life, hardships, they have the real wisdom. And those people who are softy and had a very comfortable life. And some people told me that people who had experienced the world wars, those generations are much more understanding, much more patient than the following generation who had not experienced those difficulties, you see. And that is not to pray and not to say that they should have those world wars and difficulties, but all what we are saying is, suffering is introduction to happiness. Suffering is introduction to happiness, right? So we need to learn from those sufferings and problems, right? And then we discuss a little bit about mindfulness on the mind. For example, mindfulness meditation on the mind means that, for example, if you are developing attachment to something, you are getting obsessed with something, or if you are developing strong anger or hatred, then you need, or if your mind is getting ignorant and confused, then you need to immediately analyze what is the state of this mind having attachment, what is the state of this mind having hatred, what is the state of this mind which is confused, right? Is this mind something that is concrete, something that I cannot handle, something that I cannot change? Similarly, you should analyze what was the state of the mind, my mind which was past, which is going to come in the future. What is my present state of mind? What are the sources? If you try to pinpoint like that, you will not be able to pinpoint it. Mind is shapeless, colorless. It's kind of pure energy. So when you see this, then this will help you understand that the mind, that which I have taken for granted, that is something going to last for a long time, or almost like existing independently from its own side. There's no such a mind. There is no such a mind. So mind is something that has no form, something that cannot be demonstrated, something that cannot obstruct anything, something that really has no support and no basis, something that doesn't appear easily, and no particular place to stay. And so a mind which has inherent independent existence has never been seen by any of the Buddhas of the past, present and future. It will not be seen and never seen. So whatever we are experiencing, difficulties and problems, they're all because of a wrong state of mind, a confused state of mind. There is a beautiful quotation from Atisha's Dilemma of the Path to Enlightenment, where it says, that so much of the problems, difficulties, afflictive emotions, they arise from discursive thoughts, conceptual thoughts. It is through our wrong ways of relating to others and thinking that all the problems arise, right? So therefore it's important to understand the actual nature of the mind. Mental creation, as I said earlier. The same object, the same thing for one person is an object of, it's ugly. The same object another person is so beautiful. So therefore some like green color, some like yellow color, some like red color, you see. But there's no color that is existing independently and which everybody can say this is the best color. Right? So when you understand that much is due to one's own mental perception and mental designation, then you will make an effort not to let your mind create everything, but instead try to see the way things are. That's why in the mindful practice we are saying that remain in the present. Don't run too much after what has happened in the past. Don't run too much after what is going to happen in the future, but remain in the present. Remain in the present probably sounds like Dzogchen practice. But in the Dzogchen practice, they said, do not let the mind chase the object. There is a text called Simying also. That means making the mind take rest. Because the mind, when it keeps on chasing the object, like there are 100,000 different kinds of objects we are chasing. As a result, we get tired. Most of us at the end of the day, very, very tired, because it's understandable, because you have been chasing so many things. The other day I mentioned you are not staying comfortable in your home, but you are chasing. And you get tired. So what is this Dzogchen practice or mindfulness practice is basically saying? Is the mind should be just a watcher, just a witness what is happening, what is going, what is passing. Watch. So if you are able to watch, remain alert, and maintain that mindfulness, then you are able to see that beautiful spectacle. That such and such person came and gone, such and such event gone and came and gone. But ordinarily, as I said, we are not watching. We are not watching. We are simply influenced by the current of the external situations, events, right? And then he goes on comparing the mind just like a running stream of water. It doesn't abide for a second, it keeps on running all the time. It arises and then disintegrates. The mind is also like a wind. It travels all the way, and you cannot lasso as we say, we cannot lasso the wind. Lung Shakwe Simtu Umara says, I cannot lasso the wind. Right? And it's also like the radiation of the light from a butter lamp, meaning it comes from causes and conditions. And mind is like a space. Just like clouds appear in the space, similarly, afflictive emotions arise in the space, like in the expanse of the space, like mind. And mind has been also compared to lightning. It comes for an instance and disappears. Right? So there are so many beautiful examples here. And then the mind is also like a person with whom you have problem, you have difficulty, with whom you cannot live harmoniously. Because the polluted mind is source of many sufferings and many problems. So long as you have that kind of mind, it will keep on creating problems in your mind. And the ordinary mind is also the one that destroys the very root of all the virtuous practices. So from that parlance, it is really like a sand castle, which is ready to collapse. So many beautiful examples are there. It's like a dream, because the mind perceives what is of not true self as having the true self. So forth. There are so many examples. Anyway, whatever kind of mind it is, none of these minds, positive minds, negative minds, have an inherent independent existence. So if you try to search the mind, you will not be able to find it externally, internally, or in between. Or between the 4 or 5 elements, if you search it, whether the mind is there in the fire element, water element, and so forth, you will not find it. And if you try to find the source of the mind, you will not be able to find it. Meaning that the mind arises because there is an object. In relation to an object, the mind arises. And the object is normally perceived through a conceptual thought. And how you are going to pursue that object is very much dependent upon whether your mind is polluted or clear, pure. Now, in terms of the mind's relation with the object also, neither the object nor the mind has inherent independent existence. And according to the Prasangika Madhyamika, the mind cannot cognize itself. Self-perception is not possible. But still, because the mind arises by depending on causes and conditions, so therefore if you cultivate the right causes and conditions, then it's possible to get enlightened. Then it's possible to cultivate the paths. Then it's possible to get liberated. Then it's possible to develop renunciation. So when you understand that through this process it is possible to develop all the positive qualities, you are able to develop more compassion towards sentient beings. Because even though there is such a possibility, but ordinary sentient beings are not making effort. Right? That's why even in the ordinary parlance we, talk so much about giving proper education. Improving the literacy. And I can never forget that example that His Holiness the Dalai Lama gave one time when I was sitting next to him, I think during an interview, where he mentioned how if you have proper insight like wisdom, understanding, emptiness and so forth, how that insight will help you develop stronger compassion, and without which you will unnecessarily suffer. Then he gave the example by saying, with his fingers, His Holiness said, let us say here is water. Let us say there is an ant here who is thirsty and looking for water. But he is not able to see the presence of the water there. We can see because we have better, capacity. The ant is unable to see. So he is in search of water, sometimes moves this direction, sometimes that's what we see all the time. And then sometimes comes quite close to the water, then turns back and go to the other direction. So those who have the insight, when they see it, there is a possibility for them to remove the suffering, but still they are not making effort. Therefore they are unnecessarily suffering. Then you develop compassion. For example, we develop more concern to the innocent children. Why? Because we know that they're so innocent, they don't have the capacity to protect themselves, look after themselves. And therefore we are able to feel more for these small kids. And that's why the Buddha addresses us, not only the small kids, but the grown-up people, including the professors, scientists, as my child. My child. Because we are completely engrossed in doing meaningless small things, and completely lost into it, and not able to find the path for freedom, not able to remove the suffering. Right? So that's what is said here. And likewise, when you see that the mind doesn't have inherent independent existence, the objects of the mind have no inherent independent existence, then you are able to see everything like an illusion. And what we are seeing in concrete terms, in absolute terms, is mental projection. But in reality, it's like a dream. So what I have been discussing was a little bit of mindfulness on the Dharma. The Dharma, the phenomena is like an illusion, including the mind, of course. So they're like a mirage, a bubble, a dream, and things like that. And he gives a beautiful example by saying, for example, if you tighten your fist, although your hand is empty, but to cheat the small child, say, come, I have some gift to you. The child will really think that he is going to give me something. So he'll be following you, especially if you say, I have sweet, But in reality, there's nothing. So similarly, like we go after these objects, which is like that empty fist, from where you're not going to get anything. But we do think that there is something there, which as it get into trouble. And things arise because of mental projection. Things arise because of it is dependent on causes and conditions and so forth. But still, things having no independent, inherent existence doesn't mean that they don't exist. Now, this is very important, especially for the new listeners. Make a distinction between existence and independent existence. Right? Existence is there. You are existing, I am existing. Existence is there. But independent existence is not there. It is important to mention this because even though independent existence is not there, but our ordinary unenlightened mind tends to think that there is something that exists independently. Clear? And what's wrong with that? The problem with that is when you see things having independent existence, for example, when I see an object, if I see this object existing, there's not a big deal, there's no problem. It's true. But if I exaggerate the way that object is existing, if I say this, because I like that object, if I say this object is 100% beautiful, you see, then you develop desire, attachment. I want to have this one. You get stuck with that, obsessed with that. You are not able to see any other shortcomings of that object. Wow. On the other hand, if you have another object, say your enemy which you don't like, because of the fact that you don't like that enemy, you again tend to exaggerate the faults of that enemy. You will see that enemy as 100% negative, 100% horrible. Impossible to have negotiation, impossible to have dialogue. See? The enemy must be eliminated. That's the only way. But the reality is that enemy also has some good qualities. He also has his friends, relatives who say my enemy is so good. My whatever, friend, relative, whatever. They will appreciate and talk highly about the good qualities of that person. So it is our uninformed, unenlightened mind which tends to either exaggerate or deny great. And thereby we fall into one of the extremes, nihilism or eternalism. Nihilism means, to our ordinary mind, we think if things exist, things must exist independently. If things don't exist independently, it means they don't exist, right? It's easier said than done or than experienced, because ordinarily, this is repeatedly said because there is a big point here. Now we have some understanding because we are thinking, but ordinarily, When you really fancy somebody, you really like somebody too much, then if somebody starts talking about bad things about that person, you get upset, you see. Why do you get upset? Right in the beginning, if you have that understanding, yes, my friend is very good from this way, that way, but he has also faults called bad things like that, and still acceptance, then no problem, you see. But normally you get crazy, you get mad. Oh, this object, this car, this person, 100% good. You don't want to see anything bad in that. Meaning that you are seeing that as 100% good. Then you get obsessed with it, get stuck with it. Right? So that's why this point, meditation on mindfulness of the phenomena, means mindfulness or meditation on the way things are, the ultimate reality. The ultimate reality is things exist. Clear? Things exist, but do not exist independently, because anything that exists, they must exist by depending on causes and conditions. They must exist by depending on the designation, the name and the label that is given to that object. The other day I gave you the example of the microphone. We call this microphone not elephant, because it is dependent on designation. Right? Then the part and the whole, they are also dependent on each other, things like that. So things exist, but do not exist independently. Now that is a little bit shocking to us. And that's why this very famous text called Heart Sutra, the main subject of that Heart Sutra is Shunyata, emptiness. So for an untrained mind, untrained ear, when you talk about things having no inherent independent existence, that's very shocking. Very shocking, very upsetting, because you wanted to enjoy with somebody permanently, independently, absolutely. But now you see that's not possible. You get shocked. So therefore, instead of Heart Sutra, some people wanted to call it Heart Attack Sutra, because it gives you heart attack, kind of Heart Attack Sutra. You see. So really, it's not easy. If we meditate, then we realize, you see, yes, things are there on the level of designation, on the conventional level, but when you search and analyze, you don't find anything. It's shocking, right? It's shocking, because you wanted something there, something that you can hold on to. In the Buddhist practice, holding on to something means getting stuck. The Buddhist practice is asking us not to hold on to something, not to get stuck, but let go. Be free. But we have this habit of holding on to something. This is my car. This is my house. This is my smelly socks. Sometimes I give a discourse on smelly socks. Because how strong the grasping we have is clearly indicated by your smelly socks. And when that socks, even if it is smelly, so long as it is your smelly socks, you think this is okay, tolerable, the smell is tolerable. When it is someone else's socks, even if it may be brand new, but you say, oh, it's a socks, don't touch, dirty, To such an extent, sometimes that you will even take that smelly socks up to your nose to see how much smell is there or not, you see. So because it is associated to you, to your grasping. So anything that is associated to you, that means first you develop this grasping to I, then grasping to mine, my smelly socks, whatever, grasping to that. And it is because of this grasping to I and me and mine that you get entrapped in the samsara, just like rings of bucket that is entrapped in a well. Chandakirti in his text, the middle way, he gives the example of the ring of buckets in a well. The ring of buckets, when you pull the water, the rings of bucket, number one, they have to go continuously, so they are cycled. Secondly, when they come up, they hit several times on the wall, you see. They crashed, crumbled, So we sentient beings are like those buckets, ring of buckets in a well, that we encounter suffering of change, conditioned suffering, and so on, you see. Because of this grasping to I and mine. So the more you are able to see the reality, how everything is really like a bubble, how everything is interconnected, how everything is just a collection of causes and conditions and things like that, how everything is just a level, you see. Then you will be able to loosen that. It's not easy, but repeatedly thinking, it will help you. It's not just with one go. That's why in Buddhist texts we say hearing, thinking, meditation, So you need to make that effort. Right? So that is basically, but things having no independence doesn't mean that things don't exist, as I said. Things exist. Things exist. And because things exist, even though it is like a dream, but still they can produce fruit, results. And some of the best example is just like a seal. If you put a seal on this paper, you get the impression, right? You get the impression, but what is being lost from here? From the seal, what is lost? Maybe a little bit of ink, but really nothing much. The seal is intact, but you get that impression. This doesn't mean that the seal is independently existing. With its mere existence, it can produce fruit. And similarly, if I teach you a prayer which you don't know, and I repeat by my word of mouth, and you follow me, and then gradually you are able to learn. And as and when you are able to learn that prayer, my prayer doesn't disappear. So what is being transmitted, you see? What is being transmitted? What is being transmitted is just like a dream, just like an illusion. So it's important to maintain that balance, having no independent existence but still existing, still what you do makes an impact, things like that. So that is subtle. It's not easy. I'm just talking. I myself not much experience. I'm just talking, you see. If you read this text, praise to the dependent origination written by Tsongkhapa, such a great, astounding scholar, even he repeatedly mentions, how did you, Buddha, came to realize this theory of interdependent origination? The more I think about it, the more I marvel, the more I'm amazed. You see, because things exist, do not exist independently, still things function. It's really amazing, right? So things exist, do not exist independently. And having no independent existence and non-existence are also different. Right? Having no independent existence and non-existence. And independent existence, they're different. Independent existence is not there, existence is there. Like that. So basically, emptiness means empty of independent existence. Clear? Emptiness means empty of independent existence. For my Indian friends, I'm delighted to share you this view, which you may or may not know. Both these two great concepts, the philosophical concept of emptiness and the mathematical concept of zero, are developed in India. Just as from the zero, all the numbers start. Without zero, zero seems to be valueless, but without zero you cannot have 10, 100 and so forth. It's very, very important. It's really like the foundation. So similarly, the philosophical concept of emptiness. If you accept emptiness, meaning that if you accept that things exist but do not exist independently, when you say things exist but do not exist independently, then there is only one alternative left. That is dependent existence. When things exist, do not exist independently, then the only alternative left is dependent existence. Because dependent existence and independent existence, they are mutually exclusive. Now, therefore, things exist dependently, therefore, causes and conditions can produce fruit. Clear? Clear? Dependent existence, independent existence, they are mutually exclusive. Mutually exclusive means there is no third possibility. It has to be one of these two. Either things exist dependently or things exist independently. Because things do not exist independently, therefore, but they exist, therefore, they have to exist dependently. Meaning dependent on causes and conditions, on the designation and so forth. Since things exist dependently on causes and conditions, so forth, that is actually good news. Because things are dependent on causes and conditions, therefore you can do many things now. If you want to do something good, just cultivate the causes and conditions. You can produce happiness, peace. If you don't want suffering, just identify the causes and conditions, remove them. That's good news actually. Because if things exist independently, then there's nothing you can do. It's the way things are. Because if anything comes because of having no cause and condition and so forth, then it's the way it is. Why should anybody make any effort? It's not going to change anything, right? So, to close the session, because time is up, so I basically roughly, quickly explained the 4 close setting of mindfulness. And so as in terms of meditation, you need to, normally we talk about meditative session and post-meditative session. So during the meditative session, you need to think about what I have already explained, that things do not exist independently, inherently, just mere designation, therefore emptiness, nature, and so forth. And when you are able to develop some kind of conviction, some kind of ascertainment. When you are doing that meditation, it's not a big problem. But the problem is when you get up from your meditation and mix with the crowd. Then all the sources of greed, anger, jealousy, everything is there on display, just like visiting a big market. Then you completely forget all those meditations that you've done. You return back to the same familiar world. So therefore, the purpose of that meditation is that when you get up from that meditative session, and during that post-meditative session, you should be able to remember what you have been meditating. If attachment is about to arise, okay, impermanence, having no independent existence, and so forth. About to get angry, oh, I don't have to get angry, this person is ignorant, fragile, suffering, is not the solution, and so forth. So the influence of that meditative practice must be there during the post-meditative session. Otherwise, your practice will become more or less a feel-good practice. When nobody is disturbing you, you look good. But when you mix with the crowd, there's no sign, no trace. It's not easy. I'm telling you, it's not easy. But not easy doesn't mean that it has no impact or no benefit. It's working slowly. It takes time. Right? Any questions? No question? Yeah.
Well, I just don't understand what you were saying with the microphone, before the microphone. The microphone has its own existence.
Yeah, it has existence, but no independent existence.
It doesn't have an independent,
No.
there's many things past.
Exactly.
But I don't understand how it depends on a label.
Because the microphone,
outside.
at certain period of the time, somebody gave it the name microphone. So the question is, before giving that label microphone, was it microphone?
It has
There's a lot of debate. Your question is right.
its own nature.
Hmm.
Has its own, it's like
Now when you use the word its own nature, the lower Buddhist schools of thought, that's the problem. That's why I was repeatedly saying, make a distinction between existence and independent existence. The lower Buddhist schools, they say things have to have, if they exist, they must exist independently because they have to have their own nature. Own nature. And the Prasangika Madhyamika say, what do you mean by own nature? There's nothing called own nature. And we can give a very beautiful example. Like for example, if a child, the class teacher gives a homework to a child, and then the children does the homework by himself or herself, then he can go to the teacher and say that I did it myself. Own or myself. But if the child has taken the help of the parents, then he cannot go to the teacher and say, I did it myself. Because you are helped by your parents. So similarly, therefore, the Prasangika Madhyamika say, this is contradictory to say that things exist from their own side and also dependent on a cause. This is contradictory. Right? Okay, thank you very much for sparing your time during this cold weather. And I wish you good luck and continue your good spiritual journey.